All right, so I have Donald Hohenstein on the channel with me right now. There's something new I'm going to start doing on the channel is actually bringing on people that I know that have certifications or have worked in certain positions.
My name is pronounced Hohenstein.
Hohenstein. Also, I enjoy conversations with Donald because he's very particular about things, and I like ribbing him. So, topics that we'll try to cover, and we might not get to all of them. We're going to talk about what certificates he has, what he saw as the best resources for those, personal learning projects, employment history, current position at Cisco, things that he likes about working at Cisco, and a topic that I see a lot of people talking about. They've always talked about it, but I've seen it more recently for some reason, degrees versus certificates. What certificates is he chasing right now? I see some people out there with ADHD talking about difficulties focusing and looking for guidance from other people that have attention difficulties. So we'll talk about that as well. Topics that he found difficult to grasp when he was studying for his NA. Do you have your MP?
No.
Did you work on it for a while, or?
I worked on it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about topics that were difficult to grasp in studying. Lightbulb moments, like for me, I understood VLANs and they were cool, but it wasn't until I actually started doing things in the lab where I was like, oh man, VLANs. Like I really got it at that moment. And I got a desk there. So, and then also talking about some metaphors that are used. Like when I was learning, there were topics that I was familiar with that I wasn't familiar with technology. So I used metaphors to help me better understand technology. So I guess we'll start with a rundown of what certifications do you currently hold?
So currently I have I'll try to do this in actually the order that I got them, because that's probably the easiest for me. I started off with a Security Plus. That has since lapsed. Then I got my CCENT, then CCNA. This is route switch. Then CCNA voice, CCNA video, which at the time turned it into a CCNA collaboration. Then my CCIE collaboration, then my RHCSA.
Awesome.
And I don't think I've gotten any other ones since then.
But you're chasing a certificate right now, right?
Yeah, I'm working on my CCNA wireless. I'm trying to get that in before the test moves over.
Certpocalypse?
Yeah, before all the certs change. But then also with the continuing education program, I can use the studying of that cert to help recert my CCIE.
Awesome. Yeah. So I know for me, when I was studying for the different certifications that I have, I used a lot of different resources, and at times I even got a little bit overwhelmed at the amount of resources that I had available. But once I narrowed it down to a select few resources that I found to be the most useful, I felt as though my studying, my progress really started to grow rapidly, because I wasn't jumping around from resource to resource. I had a select few resources that I was going to use, and I just started moving forward with that. And I recommend those same resources to people like Boson. Boson is amazing for the CCNA level. Yeah. I don't know if they have CCNP level, but if they do, even though I didn't use it, I'd recommend it. So for you, what resources on the different certifications that you hold did you find to be most valuable? Yeah, so for Security Plus, that was so long ago, but that I don't completely remember, but I'm pretty sure it was there was an official cert guide for it. Okay. I know for CCENT and CCNA, I used Wendell Odom's guide. CCNA voice and CCNA video, I used the Cisco official cert guides for those as well. Unfortunately, there's no official cert guide for the CCIE collaboration. So for that was a combination of, I think I had access to INE, maybe CBT Nuggets, a lot of just kind of knowing stuff after working in collaboration for some time, and just kind of like being aware of the different guides that are out there on Cisco.com.
And then towards the end of my studying for that, I got access to cert, which Cisco generously provided. So that was extremely helpful. And then for the RHCSA, I just used the video series by Sander Van Voot that was available from Safari Books, I think it was. And I think now it's O'Reilly. But yeah, that video series was really, really good.
That's awesome. Yeah. For the CCIE collaboration,
yeah,
I always tell everybody that cert is the go-to resource.
Cert is really, really good, but it's also pricey.
Yeah, it's very pricey.
Yeah, I think
it's worth the money though. It's the amount of time and frustration, and even in just building my lab.
Yeah,
the amount of difficulties and time spent, it's worth the money. But of course, you got to have the money in your bank to do it. But
yes,
I would have bought it sooner if I was to go back and do it again.
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, when I took my second attempt at the lab, I got the lab for free through Cisco, like the lab attempt for free through Cisco, but I was like flying out to San Jose and spending all this time studying. You also got to think about like how much is your time worth. I mean, I would absolutely recommend it. I wish I would have bought it sooner out of my own pocket, because I feel like the first couple months of studying that I did for the lab was not really utilized as well as it could have been. And I might have been able to pass the thing on my first attempt if I had actually just paid that money up front.
Yeah, same here. I feel the same way. Do you mind, as we go through this, just checking to see like what topics we had, or even whatever ones you feel like talking about the most?
Yeah. So employment history, I guess, is going to be helpful just so that people know
your background, right?
Yeah, my background and who I am. So as Patrick said, I'm Donald Hohenstein. I have been working in technology for about, since May of 2011. So
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So so it's over 8 years, like 8.5 years, I guess, at this point. Started off with a company called Paytech, which I was troubleshooting T1s for like the first 8 months at that company, or first 7 or 8 months. Then moved over to troubleshooting voice over IP, which at that time the company got acquired by Windstream, and then I worked there for about another year before I joined Cisco. At Cisco, I started off on the telepresence team, just troubleshooting like video devices, which is very similar to, they work very similar to voice devices. Then I moved to the CUCM team. And then last October, so October of 2018, I joined CMS as a problem manager for one of our customers. So that's my current position at Cisco, is a problem manager. So any sort of issue that will cause multiple incidents, anything from like a defect that can affect a number of devices to just these incidents keep happening over and over again. Why is this happening? I help to find the cause of that.
Real quick, something that's not on the list that I wanted to talk to you about. I'm eventually going to do a video about basically a day in the life of a TAC engineer. And I was curious about, given that you worked in other places before coming to TAC, I was curious about what did you like about working in TAC that wasn't available, or just it was available just not as prominent as it was in TAC? Okay.
Yeah, so working in TAC was great. So when I joined TAC in 2013, January 2013, and I came from kind of a similar environment at Windstream, but I was the team lead for the voice team, but it was kind of a knock environment. So we didn't have any sort of a lab. and we didn't have that close of a relationship with engineers. Like, we kind of got to know them after a while, but it was kind of a lower level, almost technician type thing.
Yeah, like a clear line in the sand.
Yeah.
Making the difference between the knock engineers and...
Exactly.
Or knock support. Were you guys called engineers? Or just...
No, we were called technicians.
Okay.
Yeah. But within TAC, it is very clearly engineering.
Okay.
So we have access to a lab where we can do recreates. That is fantastic. That's
an amazing lab.
Yeah, it's an amazing lab. But I mean, even just having access to devices, when you're trying to work with somebody, trying to walk them through something, if you can just click around on your own for a few minutes, that is a huge benefit. And that's not something that's available everywhere. I would even say that that's kind of the exception rather than the norm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But so that between that, the culture is really great in TAC. A lot of everybody always says work hard, play hard, and I hate that. But in TAC, like, you can actually play a little bit. Like, you can joke around with people. We'll shoot Nerf darts at each other, and it's great.
It's a good environment for sure.
Yeah, and it's not something I've really noticed in any other environment that I've worked in. And also the technical expertise in the people there is amazing. That's another thing that, like, when I joined TAC, I was like, wow, I have so much to learn before I can even, like, have a conversation on the same level as these people. And I'd like to think that now I'm at that level.
I believe so. I think so, yeah.
After I have a CCIE and everything. But yeah, that was really, really good. Things I like about working at Cisco, that's a lot of what I like. Most of my... so for stuff that I like from working at Cisco, most of my time at Cisco has been in TAC. So most of what I like about Cisco is working with TAC, having relationships with people in TAC, and still, still working with them and talking to them from time to time.
Yeah.
Like we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even outside of that, within Cisco, Cisco as a whole has a great culture, and you always have the ability to talk to someone who is the expert on that particular problem. Like, in a lot of cases, you're talking to people who wrote the code, you're talking to people who wrote RFCs. If you really want to know how one particular component on some product, even like a minor product that most people haven't heard of, works, you can actually talk to those people.
Oh yeah.
So that is really good. And then also, I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about my other certs. Cisco really encourages people to develop themselves. There's a lot of training that you can attend. A lot of free lab attempts for your CCIE, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
That is really, really beneficial.
I'm glad you brought that up, because another thing that I see common on support forums or people's blogs or even on videos, like actually I was watching a Network Chuck video, which I don't know if are you familiar with Network Chuck?
No.
All right, so he's a guy who's very into Cisco, but he's also into a lot of other stuff, and he does a lot of videos that deal with different technologies. He does some hacking stuff. He's got some really good videos. One of his videos, he said something about folks in TAC being very specialized, and essentially, and it's a good point, it is a valid point, but essentially that the engineers get pigeonholed, right?
Yeah.
So, it is a valid point, it does happen.
Yeah.
You can have a good career in Cisco being very specialized and pigeonholed, but I think that there's an important note to make. The people that do not want to learn more are the ones who get pigeonholed. The people who have the motivation and want to develop themselves and become a more well-rounded, more exposed engineer, not only does Cisco encourage it, they will pay the money for you to go there. I had a course. I actually took a course in Python and programming, and the course was delivered by one of the core developers for Python.
Yeah.
It was a great course that I went through. I got ITIL certified.
Yeah.
To say that you're going to be pigeonholed if you get a job in tech is a little bit accurate, a little bit inaccurate. It's accurate in the sense that it can happen. It's inaccurate in the sense that it only happens if you allow it to.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. And I think this is kind of a similar conversation to degree versus certs, where it's do you want a breadth of expertise or a depth of knowledge? And both are important. Yeah, you can get pigeonholed in tech. You can, and I mean, I am still specialized in the group that I spent 4.5 years on. But that didn't stop me from learning about the other technologies within collaboration, or that didn't stop me from going out and getting my CCNA route switch or getting my RHCSA. These are all things that's once you, I think for a lot of people, they have to, or they maybe this is inaccurate to say they have to. They feel like they have to become experts in one particular area, and that is really valuable.
Yes, extremely valuable.
But once you have an expertise in that area,
branch out.
You need to, in order to develop yourself and kind of advance your career in some instances, you need to branch out and find things that are tangentially related to what you're doing. I'm working on my CCNA wireless now because it is only tangentially related, but still tangentially related to what I'm doing now. My particular customer has a lot of wireless phones, and I figured it would just be handy to know that. Is that ever going to help me within collaboration outside of wireless phones? Probably not, but I can at least show that I'm putting forth the effort, and in a lot of cases that's what's really important to your next step in your career. Not necessarily people aren't necessarily going to say, I need to have somebody who can fulfill all of these check boxes that we have on the job description. What I think is more important in a lot of cases is to show, here is how I've been developing myself. Even though I'm a specialist in this area, I'm still going out and trying to do these other things.
Absolutely.
Which leads me into the personal learning projects. That's another thing that you can use.
Absolutely.
So I have recently, as in in the past year, done 100 days of code, which is where you sit down and program for 1 hour every single day for 100 days in a row, which is pretty difficult because I didn't realize until about 60 days into it, there's not really anything that you do that's not eating or sleeping or something for an hour every single day. Especially something that's kind of work related, and by the end I was just so tired of programming. But
how much did you get from it? What did you how much better is your code? Your abilities?
So I think the first 30 days was the most important.
Okay.
I gained so much coding knowledge and so much confidence in my coding abilities in the first 30 days. After that, it was incremental improvements. I still don't know why you'd want to use a class, which I'm sure is going to get some people mad at me on the internet. But for me, I guess my use cases too are very much I'm building tools for people. I want to be able to check 100 CUCM servers and see which of these have this error message.
DevOps type of stuff.
Yeah, but it's very scripting focused. Yeah. And for that, I learned how to use functions, and I got very comfortable with those. And then I tried for something 10 days in a row to try to force a class into every single program that I wrote. And I was moderately successful, but most of my classes I was like, I could do this so much easier if it was a function.
So that's one of the things actually functions can be built into the class, right? As methods.
Yeah.
But what I found, where I found the usefulness of a class was in that I would be doing things like a dictionary and having these lists and doing these for loops and like having to do some really wonky kind of held together with bubblegum and duct tape sort of code. And then once I would add a class in, it was, I would be able to remove a significant amount of lines of code.
Yeah.
And have it look a lot more streamlined and easier to understand and far less having to run this loop to get this piece of information, and then once I have that piece of information running this other, function to do X, Y, and Z, where everything was kind of just a lot more streamlined and organized.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is most of my programs have less than 10 functions. Most of them are less than 500 lines of code, and most of them, and also I never really got comfortable with how to use a class. So it was like, yes, I could use that. I could use this, but I'm going to have to sit there with a book in front of me the entire time, trying to understand how to properly use a class, and then I'm still not going to be sure that I did it the right way. If I do it with a function, I'll be done with this function in 10 minutes, and I'll be confident that it works.
Yeah.
And also, I'm like, okay, like, I know that you could also optimize a lot of stuff if you add in classes. Like you're talking about, I can remove a lot of lines of code. I was more concerned with trying to have a working product than trying to have a well-written.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's a thing that that I find myself saying a lot in woodworking, like one of my hobbies, which is done is better than perfect.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that, I think, like progress, not perfection.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was writing Python every single day, then yeah, I would need to know how a class works. I'm not writing Python every single day. I'm being asked to run like a report on something, and trying to get that done in like a day or two, and then going back to my normal 9 to 5 for like another 2 weeks. So the other stumbling block that I ran into with Python is there is a lot of statistics involved and a lot of data science involved.
In Python?
Yeah, so like I
guess it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I've not had to do much.
Well,
I was
trying to use like other people's like programming challenges.
Okay.
And I found that I was like really running up against a wall where it was like I don't know statistics, I don't know data science. Eventually I just changed the project so that I didn't have to run into that. But
okay.
If you do want to do Python with data science, like I'm sure everybody already knows this, but it's like you have to know statistics. So if someone out there has like a really good intro to statistics where I can get like 80% of statistics
put it in the comments
in like 10 hours or less, let me know, because I am all for it. Because I'd like to do more like data science stuff and actually be able to do kind of like some analysis type stuff. Get graphs, do some regression where it's like, okay, this is where we're going to get to this point, right, based on this trend. But I can't do any trend analysis because I don't know statistics.
Yeah.
So, or I could hack it in with like some other example that someone has already done, but who even knows if that's like the right
I get it.
thing, the right tool for the job, right?
If you want it done right, do it yourself, right?
Oh yeah, but also you have to understand what you're doing. So like, I can understand linear regression pretty well, but for the challenge that I had was on, I think it was like PyPy or something, some like Python library tool that everyone uses online. It's like write a program that will guess where this will hit this certain number of packages. I can understand a linear regression where it's like, okay, we'll build a scatter plot on this, and then this is the best fit line. That doesn't really work for something where it starts off really flat and then jumps up over time. Yeah. And I can look at something that someone else has already built, and I'm like, that makes sense. They did it right. I don't understand how to actually do that myself, or the math behind it. Yeah. So if anyone has any resources out there that I should try, please let me know, because I would love to learn more about statistics.
Yeah, man. Well, anyway, we're here at the Lemongrass Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
Should we give it a go?
Yeah.
A few moments later.
Let me see if it's... Yep, it's picking me up. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
So we'll head out.
Yeah. So yeah, the other things on the list here. I'm just going to start running down and see where that takes us.
All right.
So the next thing is degrees versus certs. Both are important. So as far as myself, I just have an associate's degree, and then I have all the certs that I lined out, with the biggest one being a CCIE. I think degrees are more important to get your foot in the door. Once you are there, it's really going to be a lot more of how you are once you're in the organization. Certs are a really good way to show everyone that you have some base level knowledge and a drive. Yeah. Like that's another way that you can say, like, you don't even have to listen to what, or you don't even have to ask my manager. You could see by my resume that even though I've been employed here, I've had my degree, and I'm doing all this, that I'm still trying to further myself, and I'm not just treating this as a job. I'm treating this as a career. I don't think that there's, at least in our field, and this, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but I don't think that there's really a benefit to having anything much more than like an associate's degree.
Okay. Maybe
a bachelor's.
Yeah.
But I would not. I mean, if you're trying to get into networking, like, don't go out and think that you need to get a master's degree or a PhD in computer science to get employed at a company like Cisco. You certainly can. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. we had a few people with their master's degrees in our program with us.
Yeah.
Matt Wright, I think, had one.
Yeah, there's plenty of people out there who have master's degrees, and they're very successful. They really know what they're doing. But I wouldn't say that it's necessary. I'd say 90+% of what I use day to day is stuff that I've learned while I was on the job, and only 5% of it is stuff that I learned in school.
So, a couple things with that. You said that having a degree helps you get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing about the certificates. They help you get your foot in the door, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, I think when people say that you don't need a degree, you just need the certs, they're not accounting for the level of experience that the person has with their certificate, right? So I would say certificates and degree, they're both very important. Your ability to show what you know and your experience is more important than both. Your level of experience is more important than both, because I know people that don't have degrees, don't have certificates, are paid very well in a very good job, where their opinion is respected and everything. They're doing some high-level work, and it's all because of their background, their experience, what they've done, right?
Absolutely.
And also, of course, their social network, who they know.
Absolutely.
The other point I wanted to make is that every time that you mention you have an associate's, you always say, I have just an associate's.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's because most of the people that I work with have bachelor's or master's, or there's maybe a few people who have
but if I look at it from the perspective of, some of the managers and other engineers that have their master's degree and their doctorate or whatever, Tim is an MD. If I were to look at it that way, then I would say I just have a bachelor's. I'm just saying it's.
There's always going to be somebody who's more highly trained than you are, but for a lot of companies, they will have policies where
you have to have this certain level of degree, and it has to have this certain level of GPA. But even those policies,
people
are waverable. Like they'll bend on it.
Yeah.
But I dislike that in the discussion about degrees versus certificates, it is always this black and white. Go get your degree, or don't go get your degree. And I think the main reason why people would say not to get your degree is because the amount of debt that people typically accumulate from school, and the amount of time it takes you, 4 years to get a bachelor's degree, right? Why not point out the fact that the more credentials you have, the better, right? And if you have it in you to maybe one day be a manager, or you just, I think you've said in the past that you want to get your bachelor's degree. Right? It's a personal goal, maybe. You've already had college credits to work towards that. So once you're older and you're married and you have kids and you have, whatever range of responsibilities, you've already made progress towards getting your bachelor's degree, and you've got an associate's that you can hold up. And on top of that, I think college, just like almost everything else in life, you have to learn how to play the game. Right? So you've already had the experience. It doesn't seem like this big, overwhelming goal that is near impossible to achieve. You already understand the importance of looking at a professor's grade point distribution. You understand the importance of going to ratemyprofessor.com. You understand the importance of handing in a project. Even if it's not complete, a crappy grade is better than a 0. Right? So I would say, my opinion is this. Get an associate's, right? If you don't have the money to go and get a bachelor's degree and you're worried about the amount of debt, but you also want to have that additional credential of college degree, get an associate's. Right? Why is it always bachelor's degree or nothing? Right?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it shouldn't. So it's hard it's hard to say why I feel like the bachelor's degree is like the standard, but it's probably because in my job, most of the people I interact with have bachelor's degrees. If you poll people, 80% will have bachelor's, 10% is lower, and 10% is higher. Is what I would estimate. But I mean, any of this, like the degrees, the certs, your experience, all of that stuff on your resume,
the more the better.
All that like just gets you to the interview.
You have to execute.
I would say that, and then how you do in the interview is whether or not you get the job. So I would say that if you're having a hard time getting interviews, then that's where I would say, like, okay, well, maybe I need to go get a cert. Maybe I need to go back to school and do an associate's degree or whatever. What I would recommend is get an associate's, get your foot in the door somewhere, and then get them to pay for the rest of your degree.
That's a very good point.
If you really want a bachelor's.
And certifications. Depending on where you go. I know that Cisco has very good offerings for you to further your education.
Right, exactly. But again, like if you're getting interview after interview and you do all your interviews and you never get a call back or you get declined after that, then that's really going to be how you're speaking in the interview. So part of that is actually being able to answer technical questions, but then the other part of that is just interview prep. I mean, basic stuff of like anything from whether or not you're sociable to whether you can answer their questions to anything.
And how you do under pressure,
and how you do under pressure.
One of the more recent folks that we hired, I was interviewing him, and we got pretty far into the interview, and I asked him, how do you think you're doing in this interview right now? And he says, do you want to know the truth? I think you guys are looking at me like, why am I in front of you right now? Like, why is this guy here? Right? And so then I asked him, then why do you still look like you're happy to be here? Why are you still smiling? Why are you still carrying the same level of energy that you brought in the door? And he's like, because I'm going to stay here until you guys make me leave. And we ended up hiring him. So there's X number of reasons that you can lose an opportunity. There's X number of reasons why you can achieve and capitalize on that opportunity.
Yeah.
One thing, though, that I would say is that it's always better to have more credentials. If you can afford, if you can afford to get an associate's degree, and by afford it, I don't mean just financially.
If you can put the time in.
Yeah, right. Which you watched. You have your CCIE.
Yeah.
You watched my video about the CCIE.
Yeah.
You make time for what you really truly want.
Yes.
You make time for it.
Yes, absolutely.
You wake up at 4:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. At least it's temporary, right? For me, I was doing that for the IE.
Yeah.
But I'm not running myself into the ground at that level anymore. So it's a temporary thing. You do it until you get your goal. And you don't have to be taking 15 or 18 credit hours. I mean, you can do it 3 credit hours at a time.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand why people give the advice of do not go get the college degree, rather than saying, "Whoa, look at these guys! Check them out. I am doing 75, I'm doing 70 right now. I'm doing the speed limit, and those cars must have been doing, what do you think, 90?
Yeah, at least
90, 95.
At least. But yeah, I've heard that talking about like, oh, don't get your degree because you're not going to use it. And yeah, I only use 5% of like what was on the curriculum is what I do in my day to day. But I also learn I met a lot of people. I learned a lot of stuff that I would not have otherwise learned. That is useful, and it's stuff that's not on the curriculum.
Exactly.
The other thing is with certs too. I've also heard people say, "Why would I want to go get a cert? I don't need a piece of paper." That's
valid point.
I don't need a piece of paper from Cisco to tell me what I know. I hate hearing that.
So then you're not going to like this. And I never understood it myself. When I first got into doing this, tech work, there was a senior guy who was like really, really, really good, and I asked him, "Why don't you have any certifications?" And he's like, "Because I've never had a login prompt forced me to provide my credentials before I could log in." And his educational credentials, not his credentials as in username and password. Yeah. And he said, and I've also never had a customer who I'm supporting stop me in the middle of a P1 call or anything and say, "Hey, what's your cert number?" Right? So I mean, I get it. Right? Because he was doing well enough. He was doing well enough in his career. But how long did it take him to reach that point?
Yeah,
right?
And that's the thing. It's just like, you don't get a login prompt for that, but you get that same thing when you're applying for a job. Like, the hiring manager might not see your resume. You've got 12 years of experience, but you have no certifications. The hiring manager might not see someone with 12 years of experience. They might see that as a red flag. Right? They might see it as a red flag.
And you don't have to drive, right?
Who knows?
So, it's good.
Or it might automatically get filtered.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying about the value that comes with it of, I took a course in honeybees, all right?
Okay.
It was an easy A. I saw the professor's grade point distribution. It was almost all A's, 90% A's. Okay. And I looked at the amount of work, right? Like we said earlier, you have to learn how to play the game. I looked at the amount of work that it would take for me to have to do well in that course. And I had other courses that were really, really difficult. So I was like, man, I can get an A with minimal effort in this other course. So I took it.
Yeah.
When do I ever use that? When I'm talking to my kid at down at Joyner Park or Blue Jay Point, and I see some honeybees, and I talk to my kid about stuff that I learned about honeybees. When do I use it to earn money? Never. But, right? Having that degree, right? You went to NC State, right?
Yeah.
Go Wolfpack, right?
Right.
You and I have another, I guess, facet of where we can relate to each other.
Yeah.
Right? So if you didn't go to college at all, you might be a fan of NC State. You might be a fan of the Wolfpack, but it's just not the same as being able, like myself being a Marine. When I meet another Marine, we already have some level of understanding of respect for each other and what we've gone through, right?
Yeah.
So that's something else that you get with the degree that if you just don't have one, then you're selling yourself short, I guess is my take on it.
The other thing I hear a lot that bothers me, and this is like going back to what you said about honeybees.
All right.
And this also comes up a lot with all sorts of subjects, like when am I going to need to know this, or am I ever going to use this knowledge? And it's this idea that there is knowledge that is useful and knowledge that is useless.
Okay.
And I would argue, yes, there is knowledge that is going to be more or less useful to you, but I would say that there is no knowledge that is useless. Like, if you sit down and just read random Wikipedia articles for 45 minutes, that is not 45 minutes of wasted time. You learned something doing that. And it, like honeybees, is not something you're going to use in your day-to-day, but it's something that you never know when that can pop up. That might be useful. As an example, a friend of mine who is also in the same field keeps bees. He's like a home beekeeper. I've helped him build beehives. Like, that's something where, again, like, if you met him, you could connect with him on that level as well as going to
I took a course,
and all
right?
these other things.
And who knows, maybe one day he's a manager and he happens to be a hiring manager for a position that I applied for.
Right.
And
even if you never use that specific knowledge, you're still exercising your brain in gaining knowledge. You're still bettering yourself, even if it's not in an area that your manager is going to care about. You're bettering yourself somehow.
So, in summary, what's your take on it? Get a degree?
I would say
an associate's.
I would say get as many credentials as possible.
Okay, yeah, sounds
good. If you can. Yeah. If not, you got to prioritize. The big two ones that I would say in our field is associates and CCNA. If you get an associate, you get a CCNA, and you can do well in an interview, and you're persistent about applying, then I would expect that you get a job. I can't guarantee anything. I would expect that you would be able to get a job.
Yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
You were talking about if you're not, at one point you said something about if you're not getting the interview, right? So there's two different things. Right. Getting the interview and getting the call back, right? Yeah. If you're not getting the interview, there may be a problem with the resume. And for me,
yes.
My resume needed some tweaking. It's pretty good. But one of the things that I liked a lot that one of the managers told me, Chuck, he was like, why do you have all the tools and certs and everything at the bottom of your resume? Like, you have all this other stuff that's, even though it's a bullet pointed list and it's one-liners, it's not a lot of words.
Yeah.
But I still got to get through all that. So what I did was I moved like a bullet pointed list. It's a 3-column list on my resume right up near the top that has everything. It says, Wireshark, Notepad++, RTMT, SIP, H323, like all the different signalings that I deal with, different tools, Linux, right? All of that is in a bullet pointed list up top so that somebody can really quickly just scroll through these almost buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, before they can even decide that they don't want to read further in the resume. So boom, they hit this bullet pointed list of tools, protocols, concepts, all this stuff. Right. And then hopefully that puts the hook in that I want to read this resume.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about resume, like what the best thing is for a resume. I will say though, like, make sure that you don't have any errors in it. Because when you're talking about all that bullet pointed list, I read one recently where the guy said, I have great attention to detail, and then mentioned like VMware twice. And I was like, come on, man. Like,
come on, that's not that. I get what you're saying, but like,
no, I mean there were other errors.
If he had spelled detailed wrong on that,
there were other errors as well.
Okay, all right. Real quick.
Yeah.
I know that you are big into Linux, and that's a hot topic for a lot of people.
Okay.
I guess real quick.
I don't have CCIE level knowledge in Linux.
Yeah, but that's fine. I don't think you need it. Like,
I have RHCSA level knowledge.
I'm going to do a Linux video because I recently sat down with one of the fellow TAC engineers and was showing him stuff in root, and he didn't really know a lot about it. Like, he didn't know about like DF, and he didn't know DF-H, and he didn't know like LL and LL-Z or all of that stuff. He knew like CD, and he knew CD ... But like he didn't know like how to run multiple commands all at once at the speed of the computer.
I don't know if I know how to do that.
With a semicolon?
Oh, well, now I know.
Yeah, so you put in one command, semicolon, next command, semicolon, and I use it when I'm moving files and I need to have as much uptime as possible. Like when I'm naming files and like doing change mod and all that.
Yeah.
So that everything can go as fast as possible.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
So I'm going to do a Linux video eventually, but tell me, like, what are the probably, I guess, top 3 Linux commands that you use the most when you do use Linux?
CD, LL.
Okay, give me the top 3 cool
RHCSA.
Linux commands, if there are any that like you would say are cool.
Man, I don't really know. So most of the Linux commands I use, like 90+% of the Linux commands
are the basic ones, right?
Are the really basic ones. Yeah,
you can just Google it.
Yeah. But what I would say is the top. Okay, so I'm going to answer that as another question. But the top 3 Linux things that I would say are really helpful to know are know where to find information about your commands. So if you're on a system that has man pages, when I'm in root on some of the products that we have at Cisco, they don't have man pages, so I use die.net or some other page like that. Use the --help on a command. That's going to give you less information than a man, but it'll give you, it's more prevalent, and then also it will, it's usually faster. And then the other big one is learn how to use VI. And
that was big for me.
I know people are going to say, well, this other text editor is better or whatever. Yeah, well, yeah,
like
VI or Vim, whatever.
I don't like Vim, I like VI.
Whatever. But, like, I see it to such a degree that, like, when I'm looking at Linux stuff, and it's always like, it never says open VI or open, whatever the other one is, I forget it. There's like another big one that people love. Which people are going to shame me for not knowing it. But they'll always say, like, open your favorite text editor, because it's, like, such a divisive topic.
Yeah, like people are like really committed. I love VI though. I don't use Vim. I don't use anything else.
I don't use anything else, and the reason why is because, again, I'm used to working in a very restrictive root environment, and VI is all I have.
Yeah, good point.
So I have learned to get comfortable with VI because I'm working on someone else's device, and I know without a doubt it's on there.
Yeah.
If I was running a Linux desktop all the time, or I was in a very controlled Linux environment where I knew that I had access to some other text editor, then I might try those other text editors. Emacs, that's the other big one. So I might try Emacs, or I might try something else, Sublime Text, something like that. But I don't. So within VI, just like learn how to save and quit, learn how to delete a line, learn how to insert, and like edit a line and move between the 2 modes, and you're good. Yep. Like you can edit a text document on any device. And then maybe if I had to pick a 4th one, or I would say piping commands.
Yeah, like with grep and all that.
Yeah, pipe into grep, I use that all the time.
Yep.
Pipe into less, pipe into tail, pipe into head, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we had, like in TAC for the Unified Communications, at least for CUCM.
Yeah.
You are going to need to know how to navigate in Linux and root, and you're going to have to know how to use VI.
If you're in TAC.
Yes. Right?
If you're using CUCM anywhere else, you don't really need to know that, because you shouldn't ever be getting into root.
If you're in TAC, right?
Okay, yeah, I like to put in that disclaimer.
I was not very comfortable with Linux when I started, and I was definitely not comfortable with VI.
Yeah.
It was the Raspberry Pi that did it for me. That was where I really cut my teeth on learning Linux, and that's where I definitely cut my teeth on VI. And and I think you're the same way as me in this approach. Anytime I'm doing something, I will get annoyed at the way in which I'm doing it, and I'll think there has to be a different way to do it. Like, I want to do X, like appending in VI, or dropping down and doing something on the next line, right? You have I for insert, but then there's also A for append. So, like, if you're right at a letter and you want to put something directly behind it, you can hit A, right?
I didn't even know
if you want to drop down to the next line, instead of I, you can use O.
Yeah.
Right? And so, that was the other big thing that helped me with learning the stuff I do know, is that I am typically motivated through being annoyed. And so I'll think this could be done better, or this could be done differently, or I want to do X and I don't know how to do it. Very quickly, Google, right? How do I append on VI?
Yeah.
You'll find that type of stuff, right? So I think it's good to have that kind of approach of wanting to do something differently and then just Googling how to do exactly that.
The other thing that bugs me about working in Linux, and one of the ways that I've learned a lot in Linux, is I get annoyed by not knowing what each command means.
Okay, so you want to actually know what is the -p and all of that.
Yeah, so like I'll look online and how do I do this in Linux? And somebody says, yeah, you go into this and then do this and this. I want to always break that down into all the component commands, understand what each command does, and understand the options.
Right. You have to know like what is this doing.
There's a lot of people who get into the habit of copying and pasting something from the internet, which in 9 times out of 10 you're going to be fine. 99 times out of 100 you're probably fine. But just don't. But there's going to be that one time where you lose your job because you did rm-rf star or slash or something. Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean that's also like a general rule of like try to pick up knowledge wherever you can. When I'll work with people a lot where I'm talking to somebody about some route switch knowledge, and they'll jump on a WebEx with me and they'll use some command I've never seen. And I'm always like, hey, how do I use this command? What do you use this for? Where can I find more information about this? Like because you're gonna interact in any field with people who know different things than you.
Of course.
People who have different specialties from your specialty. You need to build a relationship with them and learn from them.
That's another point that I want to go back to about liking things you like about working at Cisco.
Yeah.
I know that there are certain people out there that do not want to share what they know, how they come to know it. Right. They feel as though they're protecting their position or something. I don't know. Right. I've not seen that at Cisco. If there's somebody who knows something and you express an interest in knowing it as well, they not only do they want to share it with you, they will probably get excited to share it with you.
Right.
And next thing you know, you're either in the lab, labbing something up, or you're at a dry erase board and drawing up topologies and talking about how the protocols work and like getting deep down under the hood.
And it's all about the mindset that you have too. Like, yes, they have the I've dealt with that too at other organizations, other companies, where I'll talk to somebody and this person will share something with me, but tell me, hey, don't share that with anybody, because if you have the knowledge, then you're going to be better than the other person, and so you're going to get promoted faster. And it's like a whole mindset. It's a mindset of scarcity, of like, there's only so much knowledge to go around, and I have to hoard this knowledge. And within Cisco, I've noticed that there's more of a mindset of abundance, of like people who are happy to share stuff with each other, happy to help out, because you might be, if you hoard your knowledge, you might be more efficient than other people, but you're also going to develop a reputation as someone who doesn't want to help other people. And even if you are, even if you're coming in directly from school, you have no specialty whatsoever, and you're going into an organization, but anytime you learn something, you share that, and you're willing to help out, and
it really helps your reputation.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to develop contacts faster.
People will bring you in on projects.
People are going to bring you in on projects. People are going to eventually you'll get to a point where you do know more, and you could potentially hoard that information. But if you share that, then you become a source of where people are asking you for stuff. One of the best things you can do in your career is develop the reputation of being the person that other people go to when they have a question.
Yep. The other thing I've realized is that when you're sharing knowledge, what ends up happening is the person that you're sharing knowledge with wants to know even more, and they'll start asking questions outside of what you're familiar with.
Yes.
And so now you're going to get driven to learn whatever it is that you already know it better.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And then you'll find yourself ending up being a SME or teaching what we call brown bags, like teaching other engineers in a more formal approach. And then that helps you even more, right?
Or they'll ask you a question where it's some corner case, or it's something where you realize through answering their question that you know the answer, but you don't know the why behind it. And it's going to, and then that why is going to keep you up at night until you know that, and then you have another piece of information. And
I have another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. That's not on the list, but I think there's two different approaches that people take to combating fatigue when they're studying.
Okay.
One approach is to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, take some time off, or go do something fun with some friends or some family, or take a week off of studying or whatever.
Okay.
The other approach is to, which I've done this and it's not very good, buckle down. Like I've had times where I was studying for the IE, where I would troubleshoot, hardcore troubleshooting, like face jammed into the computer screen, pulling logs, getting packet captures, everything for 24 hours straight. Like I would step away just to grab something quick to eat or use the restroom or whatever, and then I was right back at it, which I think both approaches have their positives, but I feel as though the stepping away, and maybe it's because I don't ever do it this way, you know, the grass is greener on the other side sort of thing. I think it's more positive for your health and also helps you get these kind of mental breakthroughs when you're having a block, to step away even for just 10 minutes or, you know, take a couple days off studying or whatever. If you're like really deep, hardcore down in a rut, what is your approach?
So I think the difficulty in that, as far as what approach works best, is you have to know yourself.
Yeah, good point.
And you have to know how to deal with stress. You have to take care of yourself, like take care of your body, get sleep, get exercise.
Physical health, mental health, all that.
Right. My particular method is a little bit of both. So I've noticed that, I'll talk to somebody who's a SME on something, and this is something like I'll have no basis on whatsoever. Like, let's say wireless as an example, because I'm still really new to wireless. If I talk to somebody who's a SME in wireless, if I'm asking them a question or talking to them about something, in a lot of cases, they'll bring something up that I don't know at all. Or they'll say, yeah, you need to go into here first and blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, okay, hold on. Like, let me come back to you, because I've noticed that I don't really retain things that well without some struggle.
Same with me. Yeah. So actually, on my Twitter account, it says I learn things the hard way.
Right. Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
I won't retain it.
Exactly. If this person, if I'm asking somebody, how do I do X, Y, Z? If I just ask them straight up, how do I do it? They give me a quick answer. Great. I can get in. I can do that one thing. But if I struggle and try to find it out myself first, when they're giving me that answer, I have some background, some context to it.
You're more on there. You're more able to follow the conversation and be an active participant in the conversation.
Yes, exactly. Right. So in that aspect, I would say I tend to try to push through it. Sometimes with stuff like CCIE, I've gotten in some instances where I've kind of gotten angry about stuff for a little bit, and kind of like, I'm so pissed off at this thing that I'm going to keep pushing at it. But you can't do that all the time. No. I don't think troubleshooting something for 24 hours is healthy.
I couldn't help it.
I mean, yeah, if you can't help it,
it was extension mobility on a SIP phone on CME. So first off, CME can be fickle enough. SIP phones on CME can be fickle enough. Then you add in extension mobility, man. That was one of the most frustrating things I ever did.
Yeah, I can understand that. But my thing is, for me at least, I need to put forth enough struggle to where I can retain all the parts in my head of what I'm trying to work through, and then sometimes take a little bit of a break. Recharge. Make sure that I'm eating right, sleeping right, exercising, and then get back to it.
Yeah. Why don't we hit back to the
attention?
List? Yes,
it goes
that's
to
a
attention.
Big one.
That's another
That's
one.
actually a big one, right? Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of folks that I've seen in the Facebook groups and on Reddit and elsewhere that they talk about, right, their attention, their difficulties with remaining focused, right? And
Right.
I think that even folks that don't have ADD or ADHD or any other medically diagnosed attention disorders,
Yeah.
I think folks that have very good attention levels,
Yeah.
also while learning networking, learning technical things, have a hard time, if not with all the topics, at least some of the topics.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's always going to be that one protocol or that one concept that just doesn't do it for you. You're not interested in it.
Yeah.
And if you aren't interested in it, and then you add in an attention disorder,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be hard. But
Yeah.
I think the important thing to note is that you won't be the first person and you won't be the last person to face that difficulty, and that it's attainable.
Yes,
Learning that protocol,
absolutely.
learning that concept
Yes.
is attainable, but it's more attainable if you are medically diagnosed with that attention disorder and your primary care physician or whatever works with you to identify the proper prescription
Yeah.
to assist you.
Yeah. So I have ADD, and that was a big challenge for me.
Yeah.
When I was studying, I would say the one thing that helped most out of it, other than like making sure that I'm talking to a healthcare professional about it and getting the right prescriptions and everything. The one thing that would help is trying to be on a schedule and kind of set myself up for success where I don't have distractions. So when I was studying for the ICND-1 and ICND-2 tests, every single day at lunch, I would take an empty conference room and study there for an hour, where I'm in a completely empty room, no distractions. Or I'd go over to the library. I'd find like some place that I wouldn't be disturbed, and I am only going to do this one thing for this 1 hour.
Yeah.
When I was studying for my CCIE, of course, it's a lot harder. For the lab especially, I would wake up at 3:30, start studying at 4. And in that way, not only did I not have any distractions during that 4 to 8 window, where I could get 4 hours of studying in every day, which is pretty much what you need for a CCIE. I could also, it was hard for me to get off of that schedule, to break from that for the odd thing that would normally interrupt my studying. Someone saying, hey, let's go to dinner. I can't, because I have to go to bed at 7:30 p.m.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely have to make some sacrifices
Yeah.
for the IE.
Yeah, which normally, like, if I was trying to study after work, then I'd be like, oh, forget studying tonight, I'm just going to go to dinner. Those I think are the two main things. But yeah, again, like, you got to make sure you're getting enough sleep. Got to make sure that you're,
So, I'd say the three biggest things I took away from what you said, and I'd say it the way that I'm going to say it, and I may not be hitting the nail on the head. I might be changing it. Number one, being well rested will significantly help your attention span.
100%.
Number two, having a specific task with a specific window of time, right?
Yeah.
Is going to also help you, because you're going to be like, I only got to do this for an hour. Let me buckle down. The other thing is doing it first thing in the morning before you've had time to be distracted by emails or phone calls or people asking you, do you want to do this or do that? And then also before you've worn yourself down with, putting your focus on all this other stuff you got to do for work or for your personal life or whatever, you're putting it on the front end, you're prioritizing it. So now you're well rested. You have a specific amount of time to do it, and it's a specific task, and it's first thing before you become mentally fatigued.
Right. Yeah, and all of that also goes into, like, what is healthy when you have ADD. Like, you're going to be, or at least my experience with it is, it's harder for me to focus when I'm tired. If I don't get a good night's sleep, then, like, I notice this in TAC a lot too. Like, if I get 7 hours of sleep versus 8 hours, there's a significant difference. I'm probably like a 20% difference in like what I can pick up
level
on.
Of productivity.
Right. Yeah. And like, it's going to be the same thing throughout the day. When you wake up, you have some coffee or whatever, and you get up and you go into work, and you're fresh and ready to go, and that's going to be your best time of the day. So that's what I would, that's what I would recommend, is study in the morning. I would recommend to everybody who's having trouble with their CCIE study to study before work, even if you have to wake up at 3:30 a.m. It sucks. It's terrible, but it was the one thing that was the one thing that made it so that I was able to make consistent progress, even after hard days at work. Difficult to grasp topics was the other one, or one of the other ones on here.
I'll give you an example of mine.
Okay.
One that you actually helped me with.
Okay.
Router on a stick.
Oh, router on a stick. Yeah.
Blew my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah.
But then when I got it, I remember we were at your apartment.
Yeah.
I think I'd known you for a month.
Yeah.
And when I finally got it, I looked at you and I go, what? And I turned over, I go, this stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
What you can do with, because I wasn't technical.
Yeah.
Right? I had my background, if you watch my CCIE video, is not technical.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got a job at Cisco that I was technical. So to me, it was technology's insane. It wasn't even programming or anything. It was router on a stick. Blew my mind. But anyway, do you have any?
I can't think of any offhand,
no?
Unfortunately. And I don't know. I'm sure that as soon as we're done, I'm going to come up with 5 examples.
Yeah.
But the one that I know we talked about earlier is classes in Python. I still don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I still don't know how statistics works.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a lot of actually setting up a SIP trunk in CUCM used to be extremely difficult for me when I was on the telepresence team and I didn't work with CUCM all the time.
Yeah.
I remember telling people just follow this guide step by step.
But if they ever asked you a question you didn't know, right?
If they ask me a question, that's a collab. That's a collab.
If they asked you a question, you'd send them the same guide again?
Yeah.
just follow this
I would say follow this exactly, and if you have a question, then I'll collab with the people who know. But yeah, I can't think of any other ones. Let's see.
Lightbulb moments, right?
Lightbulb moments, or something just I can't see again. I have no.
That's all right. It's all good, man.
I have no idea. Yeah. Actually, Lightbulb moment for me was learning H323 and learning that it was just like Q931.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of protocols that are all kind of based on the same thing.
Even SIP, if you look at SIP.
SIP's based on HTTP.
I know, but still, though, if you look at SIP, all of the protocols, and sorry for the folks out there that aren't collaboration specific.
Yeah.
But this is for you voice and video engineers out there.
Yeah.
If you look at all of the signaling protocols, whether it be Skinny, SIP, MGCP, H323, or otherwise, they all do the same things, right? There's a setup message of some sort.
Yeah.
There's a reply to that of some sort. There's a message for ringing. There's a message for when the other end answered the call.
Yeah.
There's means for exchanging your media parameters, whether IP address for receiving audio or video, IP address or port for audio and video. So they all do the same thing. Once you learn one signaling protocol and learn it well enough that you can really speak to it, the other ones are just understanding the different terminology.
And the other thing is
invite instead of setup, 180 ringing instead of alerting.
The other thing is too with those is devices have to interwork between all of them. So really, you have to have
a B2B
analogs for each one of those messages through all the protocols. So you send a SIP invite, that's going to be the same thing as a Skinny. What is it? Call setup? I don't know. I haven't touched Skinny.
I think so. It's been a while.
But yeah, they all do the same things. They just have different messages. And metaphors for learning. To me, this might sound silly, but troubleshooting is a very hard skill to teach or to learn. I can't think of a way to explain to people how to troubleshoot, just the methodology.
Mm-hmm.
But the methodology is pretty much the same regardless of the system. So I think of it a lot
scientific method.
Yes, but I think of a lot like a car.
Okay.
If you're having a problem where your car won't start, okay, well then what are the symptoms? Try turn it on, you get clicking. Okay, well then that could that's Sounds like you're not getting enough power. Why would you not get enough power? Battery or alternator? Test the battery, test the alternator. Okay, like, you have successfully troubleshot that issue. It's one of those things, right? You have broken it down into component steps, investigated each component step, and matched that up with the symptoms that you're getting, and you're using that to then come up with a hypothesis about what's going on.
I like your use of hypothesis over theory.
Yes.
A lot of people mix that up. Anyway,
yes. That's a pet peeve of mine, is when people
yeah.
mess that up. But yeah, so the other thing is, too, I started off troubleshooting T1s, where T1 is literally just a loop of copper wire. Like, it goes through a number of different devices and hits all these different things, but it's really just like, I'm sending a tone down this way. Do I get it the same way that I sent it? So that's, I kind of started in the easiest troubleshooting field, breaking something like that down, and then and learning about each piece. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really beneficial to have a metaphor, though. If you're trying to, especially if you're trying to explain something to somebody else, like, okay, you're having a hard time understanding this. Okay, well then think of this like a TV set. You're on the right input, but you're not getting any input. What could it be?
Yeah.
Like,
I know one for me that I had early on that I used while I was interviewing for Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
When I was interviewing at Cisco, we were talking about ARP.
Yeah.
Like, I learned the OSI model, I learned ARP, I learned what does a router do, what does a switch do, which nowadays switches can do the routing and everything. And
yeah,
routers can have switch modules and all of that.
Yeah.
But for ARP,
mm-hmm.
right, you have the layer 3 address, you want to get the layer 2 address.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I remembered that was that I looked at it as if you have a letter that you want to send to somebody,
mm-hmm.
and you know what part of the city they live in. Like, you probably even know what subdivision they live in, like the name of their neighborhood.
Okay.
But you don't know their house address, like their
mm-hmm.
actual physical address, right?
Mm-hmm.
To convert it back to networking terms. So you need to figure out, like, I have your name, I know your neighborhood. How do I get your actual address? Well, you have a little brother or a little sister, and you got a $5 bill,
mm-hmm.
right? So you say, hey, I need you to go over to Mark's neighborhood, and I need you to start knocking on every door until Mark answers.
Yeah.
And then when Mark answers, I need you to write down his house's address and come back and give that to me so I can mail him this letter.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was the way that I memorized what ARP was, because I was just like, everything was, it was a whole new language.
Yeah.
I was learning a second language when I was learning networking. Everybody is.
Yeah.
You don't know all these different protocols. So that was my way of having a metaphor for ARP.
Yeah.
Because that actually happened to me once. Actually, it was a neighbor. My neighbor was like, hey, is your brother home? I was like, I don't know. He's like, go check for me. I was like, no way. He's like, I'll give you this $1. So I was young, dude. I was in like elementary school. I was like, I can get something from the ice cream truck. So I was like, yeah, give me the $1. And I ran home. I was like, Terry Dwayne's looking for you.
Yeah.
So that was my real life example of ARP.
Yeah, and I think in any sort of topic, finding a metaphor could be helpful for it.
Always.
So I probably need to find a metaphor for Python classes.
Probably.
Really.
Yeah, I would say so.
I've looked at some metaphors that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I'll check it again. I'll give it another shot. That's my commitment on camera.
Boom.
I'm giving Python classes another shot. 2020, I'm going to learn how to use a Python class.
Speaking of that, there's a guy, Kirk Byers.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of him?
No.
He is a very good instructor. And he has a Python course that he does for free once in a while.
Okay.
He's also a CCIE routing and switching.
All right.
And his Python course is Python for network engineers.
Okay.
So he takes his networking knowledge, his CCIE certified networking knowledge.
Yeah.
He takes his very good knowledge of programming.
Yeah.
Combines them together, does a free course. It's going on in December 3rd. I'll send you the link.
Yes.
I'll put the link in the description as well for other folks that are interested in that.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the first courses I took. What you should know, though, is some level of programming. I didn't know any, but he has actually, he might have removed that requirement now. it wasn't really a requirement, but it was an expectation that you know some level of networking. So I'll put that link in there. I'll send it to you as well.
Yeah.
I think you'd like it.
All right, yeah. I'll definitely go to that.
All right.
That's good.
Should we finish it up here?
I think so.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Donald, for joining me for this. And what'd you think about Lemongrass Thai
it's
restaurant?
Good. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Except for while we were eating, I put a whole lot of hot sauce on my stuff because I really like spicy food, and I breathed in some of the hot sauce. So
it didn't go so well for him. I wasn't sure he was going to make it.
Yeah.
I thought he might die there at the table.
Yeah. That would have been a really interesting last half of the video. It's like, Donald's not with us anymore.
It would have been like Weekend at Bernie's. I would have had you. Yeah.
Some eagle-eyed viewers would be like, he didn't even have a mic on.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure he was a ventriloquist talking for Donald. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and again, thank you, Donald.
Thanks.